Ryan here with LongRangeOnly.com. This video we're going to talk about the brand new Zeiss V8 North American. Now the V8 itself is not new, but it has been historically geared towards the European market, and there's just a lot of things that that model has that Americans don't typically prefer. Not that there's anything wrong with them, it's just not what we're really used to. And I'm not really going to get into the differences. I'm going to focus on what this scope has to offer. So this is going to be geared to somebody that demands peak optical performance. That's in light transmission, clarity. You know, when you think of the best glass that you can get in a scope, that's what Zeiss was after here. It does that while offering some features that we have become accustomed to with the long-range scopes without having all the extra things that we don't need and don't want in a lot of cases. So let's just go through some of the specs that I have currently. I just got it. I don't have a lot of time. Actually don't have hardly any time with it. We have kind of looked at the glass a little bit, some low light, but not enough for me to have a definitive opinion on the differences of this compared to other glass. But we're just going to go over my initial thoughts and some of the features I do know about. And I'm only going to focus on this model that I have. There is another model, and we will probably talk about those differences when we're in the review, the two different options. Jeff has one. Hopefully he can get something out to you quickly. But this one is, both models are 8 times zoom. This one is a 2.8 to 20 power. This one is a 30 millimeter tube and has a 56 millimeter objective. It has turrets very similar to the V6 and the V4, so if you're used to those, it's not new. They're very nice turrets, very tactile feel, and it has a very solid zero stop, just like those models. It has a capped windage. The windage under the cap is usable. It is numbered, and the clicks are very nice on it. It's not quite as nice as some other scopes out there that have capped windage turrets, and then it's definitely not as nice as something like the S series from Zeiss. And it's not meant to be, because it's meant to be capped so you can hold for wind. But it does have a really quick resettable zero. I think for a hunting scope, it covers what you need. A lot of guys, and myself included, I've kind of moved towards leaving the cap on and not dialing for wind usually. Now if I have a lot of time to sit down and get it all figured out, and the animal's pretty calm and not moving, just grazing, then a lot of times I will still dial for wind. But there's a lot of quick scenarios where I just am not dialing for wind, and I think that this gets you covered, and again doesn't give you anything that you don't need. The advantage of a capped windage is you can't bump it, so you don't have to worry about it. If you have to make a real quick shot, you're not going to worry about, is my windage off? As far as on the elevation, the zero stop's going to keep you in the same spot, and you're not going to probably easily turn the elevation turret. The Parallax adjust has a little rubber ring around it. It makes it very easy to grab, and it's very smooth. It does have a little detent at 100 yards for the Parallax, so theoretically, if you've got everything set up correctly, your Parallax is going to be free, or there will be no Parallax at 100 yards, and you don't even have to look at it. You can feel that right there. It's actually pretty nice. I don't think I've felt that in any scope before. Under that Parallax knob, there's a battery for the illumination. I'll come back to that in a second. It has the fast focus eyepiece, which I prefer for a diopter adjustment. A lot of scopes are like this. There's a few that are not, and this is my preference. It's a lot easier to get set up, and it's not going to just accidentally turn on you. Once you get it set up, it's going to stay there. Like I said, 30 millimeter to 56 millimeter objective on this scope. It has a very clean and simple reticle. I don't know the subtensions on it. If I have that information, I missed it. I will get that in the review. I will also try to get it in the thread that I will start on this on the forum. It is very clean. It is a second focal plane scope, which I think most hunters are going to prefer. It keeps that reticle nice and big so that when you dial it down to 2.8, you aren't going to get lost in dark timber or darker situations. The reticle is going to be perfect for those times when you need a bigger picture and you've got it dialed down to lower than the max. Like I said, 2.8 to 20 power, which I think for hunting is great, even out to 1,000 yards. A lot of guys are going to be more than happy with that. I do personally prefer a little bit higher end scope as far as magnification, but you don't need it. This will do everything you need for long range shots, again out to 1,000 yards and beyond. But no, you're kind of getting iffy on whether or not you should be shooting animals that far, which we're not going to get into here. All right, the scope weighs right at 29 ounces on my scale. The scope has 72 minutes of elevation travel, which if you use a 20 MOA rail or 20 MOA bases is going to be more than plenty to get you out to those max lethal hunting ranges. So I know there are definitely scopes out there with more elevation travel, but you don't need it, and for hunting purposes you're never going to use it. It's got 46.5 minutes of windage travel. Again, you get it zeroed, you're never going to dial more than a couple minutes, and in this case you're most likely going to be holding for wind conditions, so that's more than plenty for what you need. The mounting surface of the scope I think is plenty. This is on a short action and it's no problem. You've got a little bit of room here to move it around if you need, and then the rails could be moved a little bit, or the mount on the Picatinny rail could be moved a little bit, and for a long action it's definitely going to be long enough. I can't think of an action. Savages are pretty long, but it's not going to be new. This is what I would say was typical for a mounting surface of a scope. And then let's talk about the illuminated reticle. The battery's up under the Parallax, like I said earlier, and you've got a power on knob back here, and then an almost infinite adjustment on the brightness. It doesn't have brightness settings. You can just dial it and get it where you want. I'm not a big illuminated reticle fan. The number one reason is because I just don't think there's a good implementation of it on the market for hunting conditions. It's either not needed because it's too bright, or when you need it because of low light, the illuminated reticle is too bright and just blows out your picture. You can't even see through the scope. If you get your diopter adjusted correctly on this so that you are parallax free and the diopter is set for your eye, both of those are perfect for your eye. This has a beautiful, crisp, very small center dot illuminated reticle, and you can see it way past legal shooting light. It's very crisp if you get the scope adjusted to your eyeball. Just turn it on, dial it all the way down in those conditions, and you can see it. Like I said, it's a very small center dot. It doesn't give you the reticle, and you don't need it. You would have to probably fudge like a wind holdover in those conditions, but it's really not geared towards taking a 800-900 yard shot in heavy wind conditions at last light. You could use it, but it's more geared towards the hunting conditions or situations where maybe you're in dark timber last light, or you're taking that 300-400 yard shot last light. Again, it can do the longer no problem. You're just not going to be able to see those wind hold-offs if it's really, really dark. I personally think that that's the best implementation of an illuminated reticle that I have seen. I would love to see this in a first focal plane. Again, I don't use them often, but this one is usable. I can't really think of another one that is usable at 2 minutes before shooting light is over. They just blow out the picture. Now, they may be good at 15 or 20 minutes before whatever. I think this is going to be good till last light. I have looked through it after dark and had no problem seeing it and seeing what I was looking at. Now let's talk about what I think is the number one selling point of this scope. Again, without having a bunch of time behind it, I can't really say how it's going to compare, but this has the best optical package that Zeiss has to offer in a rifle scope. And what I mean by that is Zeiss makes lots of different products and has some of the best glass in the world, but just because you have the best glass and the best coatings doesn't mean you're going to get like for like or an apples to apples comparison of this versus like a camera lens, just because of the things that we have to put into the scope to give us what we need. This is 92% light transmission, and like I said, the best glass that they have to offer. I'm really excited about actually getting out and testing it at last light and in bright daylight and seeing, look at the things like chromatic aberration and the clarity on target, resolution, and like I said, low light transmission to see. But I do believe that this is going to be a winner. Time will tell. For me, it has everything we need for long range hunting. It's got a zero stop. It's got nice turrets. I personally don't care if I have the ability to dial for windage, but you can if you absolutely have to by taking this cap off. The cap is nice, and the reticle is very usable, which if you're going to have a capped windage turret, you have to have a user-friendly reticle. And this reticle looks like it's going to be great. Again, I don't know the subtensions. I'm guessing they're 1 minute, and I do believe that whatever they are appropriate or set correctly for max zoom. So on this would be 20. I will confirm that in the review and try to put that information in the thread in the forum. I think we've covered this from an initial thoughts on it. I do love the scope for what it's intended for. It's definitely not going to compete with tactical type scopes, for like PRS and stuff like that. And it's not intended to. It gives us everything I need to shoot long range and gives the best glass on the market. Great light transmission, the best light transmission in a scope that I'm aware of, and I think it's going to be a winner. Go ahead and hit the link below. I'll have it linked to a thread on the longrangeonly.com forum. You can ask me any questions there. I'll try to get those answered as quickly as I can as I work through the review process. My initial thoughts are that it's going to be a great scope, and I doubt that changes, but we'll get some time behind it and we'll get that review out. Like I said, in the meantime, you can ask me questions. Please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and turn on notifications so you'll be informed of the future video releases. We appreciate you taking the time to watch. Have a great day.